Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, are plants or animals that have been changed using genetic engineering. Scientists change the DNA of these organisms to give them new traits. This might include resistance to pests or the ability to survive in harsh conditions. The idea is to create organisms that are better suited for agricultural production. GMOs are not created through traditional breeding methods. Instead, their genetic material is altered in a lab. For example, scientists might add a gene from one species to another. This could make a crop resistant to a particular pest. By doing this, farmers can grow crops that are more robust and productive. Since the first GMO crop was introduced in the 1990s, the use of GMOs has grown rapidly. Today, they are an important part of our food system. However, their use is also controversial. People have many questions and concerns about GMOs and their impact. Genetic engineering involves changing the DNA of an organism. DNA contains the instructions for how an organism grows and functions. By altering these instructions, scientists can give the organism new traits. One common method is CRISPR, allowing precise DNA changes. Genetic engineering is complex and highly regulated. Many of the foods we eat today are made from GMO crops. Some of the most common GMO crops include corn, soybeans, and cotton. These crops have been genetically modified to improve their performance and resilience. For example, GMO corn is often engineered to be resistant to pests. This means that farmers do not need to use as many pesticides. Another common GMO crop is soybean, which is often modified to resist herbicides. This allows farmers to control weeds without harming the crop. GMO crops are also used to produce ingredients found in many processed foods. Soybean oil, corn syrup, and other derivatives from GMO crops are widespread. As a result, many of the packaged foods in grocery stores contain GMO ingredients. While these crops offer many benefits to farmers, they also raise concerns. Some people worry about the long-term effects of consuming GMO foods. Others are concerned about the impact of GMO crops on the environment. One of the main benefits of GMOs is increased yield. This means that GMO crops can produce more food per acre than traditional crops. This is important because it helps farmers meet the food demands of a growing population. For example, genetically modified corn can produce more ears per plant. This means that farmers can harvest more corn from the same amount of land. Similarly, GMO soybeans can produce more beans per pod. This increases the overall yield of the crop. Increased yield is not just about producing more food, it is also about using resources more efficiently. With higher yields, farmers can produce the same amount of food using less land, water, and fertilizer. This can help reduce the environmental impact of agriculture. However, increasing yield is not without its challenges. Farmers must carefully manage their crops to ensure they achieve the best results. They also need access to the right technology and knowledge. Nonetheless, the potential for increased yield is one of the key advantages of GMOs. Section 5. Benefits of GMOs: resistance to pests. Another major benefit of GMOs is their resistance to pests. Many GMO crops have been engineered to be less vulnerable to insects and other pests. This can reduce the need for chemical pesticides, which can be harmful to the environment. For example, Bt corn is a type of genetically modified corn that produces a protein toxic to certain insects. This protein comes from a bacterium called Bacillus thuringiensis, or Bt. When pests eat the corn, they ingest the protein and die. This helps protect the crop from damage and increases yield. Pest-resistant crops can also reduce the cost of farming. Farmers spend less money on pesticides and lose fewer crops to pest damage. This can make farming more profitable and sustainable. However, there are concerns about pest resistance. Over time, pests can develop resistance to the proteins produced by GMO crops. This means that the effectiveness of pest-resistant crops can decrease. To address this, farmers must use integrated pest management practices and rotate their crops. Section 6. Risks of GMOs: environmental impact. While GMOs offer many benefits, they also pose risks to the environment. One of the main concerns is the potential for GMO crops to affect biodiversity. This means that the variety of plants and animals in an ecosystem could be reduced. For example, if a GMO crop crossbreeds with wild relatives, it could transfer its modified genes. This could create superweeds that are resistant to herbicides. These superweeds could outcompete native plants and disrupt ecosystems. Another environmental concern is the potential impact on non-target species. For example, the Bt protein in pest-resistant crops could affect insects that are not pests. This could harm beneficial insects like bees and butterflies, which are important for pollination. There is also the issue of pesticide use. While GMO crops can reduce the need for chemical pesticides, they can also lead to increased use of herbicides. This is because herbicide-resistant crops allow farmers to use more herbicides to control weeds. Overuse of herbicides can harm soil health and water quality. Section 7. Risks of GMOs, Health Concerns. Health concerns are another major issue associated with GMOs. Some worry that consuming GMO foods could have negative effects on health. Concerns include allergies, toxicity, and long-term health effects. New proteins in GMO foods could cause allergic reactions. GMO foods are tested for allergenicity before approval. There are also concerns about potential toxicity. Extensive testing ensures GMO foods are safe to eat. Long-term health effects are another concern. Many scientific organizations state GMO foods are safe. Section 8. The debate pro-GMO arguments. The debate over GMOs is complex, with strong arguments on both sides. Supporters of GMOs argue that they offer many benefits. These include increased yield, reduced pesticide use, and improved nutritional content. One of the main pro-GMO arguments is that they can help feed a growing population. With the global population expected to reach 9 billion by 2050, food demand will increase. GMOs can help meet this demand by producing more food with fewer resources. Another argument is that GMOs can reduce the environmental impact of farming. Pest-resistant crops reduce the need for chemical pesticides, which can harm the environment. Herbicide-resistant crops allow for more effective weed control, which can improve soil health. Proponents also argue that GMOs can improve the nutritional content of food. For example, golden rice is a type of GMO rice fortified with vitamin A. This can help address vitamin A deficiency in developing countries, which can lead to blindness and other health issues. Section 9. The debate Anti-GMO Arguments. On the other hand, opponents of GMOs raise several concerns. They argue that GMOs pose risks to the environment, human health, and food sovereignty. These concerns need to be carefully considered. One of the main anti-GMO arguments is the potential environmental impact. As mentioned earlier, GMOs can affect biodiversity and create superweeds. There are also concerns about the impact on non-target species and increased herbicide use. Health concerns are another major issue for GMO opponents. They worry about potential allergic reactions, toxicity, and long-term health effects. While scientific evidence suggests that GMOs are safe, opponents argue that more research is needed. Food sovereignty is another concern. Opponents argue that GMOs give too much control to large corporations. Farmers who use GMO seeds often have to buy new seeds each year. This can increase their dependence on seed companies and reduce their control over their own crops. Despite these concerns, it is important to consider the context and evidence. Many of the risks associated with GMOs can be managed with proper regulations and practices. Section 10. Public concerns and GMOs. Public concerns about GMOs are widespread and varied. Many people are unsure about the safety and benefits of genetically modified foods. One common concern is the lack of labeling for GMO foods. This has led to calls for mandatory GMO labeling. There are also ethical concerns about genetic engineering. Misinformation and lack of understanding contribute to public concerns. Education and transparent communication are key to addressing public concerns. Section 11. Conclusion, a balanced view on GMOs. In conclusion, GMOs are a complex and controversial topic. They offer many potential benefits, such as increased yield, resistance to pests, and improved nutritional content. These benefits can help address global food security and reduce the environmental impact of farming. However, there are also significant risks and concerns associated with GMOs. These include potential environmental impacts, health concerns, and issues of food sovereignty. It is important to carefully consider these risks and manage them with appropriate regulations and practices. The debate over GMOs is not black and white. Both sides have valid points and concerns. The key is to find a balance that maximizes the benefits while minimizing the risks. This requires ongoing research, transparent communication, and informed decision-making. As we move forward, it is important to continue studying the impact of GMOs. This will help us make better decisions about their use and ensure that they contribute to a sustainable and secure food system.